Hi, good evening viewers. You're watching the news on Sansad Television and I'm Rashika. In this bulletin, we get you details about the latest development in national and international news with a roundup of the G20 summit. Let's begin with today's headlines. G20 declaration echoes Prime Minister Modi's message of today's era must not be of war. Emphasizes diplomacy and dialogue with peaceful resolution of conflicts. Indonesia hands over G20 chairmanship to India. Prime Minister Modi holds bilateral talks with UK, Australia, Italy and Singapore counterparts on the sidelines of G20 summit. Discussions with French President and German Chancellor. Last date for withdrawal of nominations for first phase of the Gujarat Assembly elections on Thursday. Nominations of 999 candidates found valid. 50 years after Apollo project, NASA's new lunar rocket takes off for Moon's orbit from the Kennedy Space Center. And India continues golden run at the 15th Asian Air Gun Meet. Ridham Sangwan, Manu Bhakar win 2 gold medals in 10 meters air pistol. Now look at today's important news in our flash segment. The UK government has approved 3,000 visas for young professionals from India to work in the country each year. The UK government said India is the first visa national country to benefit from such a scheme. The Civil Aviation Ministry has said the use of masks is not compulsory during air travel, but passengers should preferably use them. Decision in line with a graded approach to COVID-19 management response. 18th edition of India-US Joint Military Training Exercise Warfare has started in Oli in Uttarakhand. The 15-day-long exercise will primarily focus on high altitude and extreme cold warfare. Australia will open a consulate in Bengaluru next year. The country's Assistant Minister for Foreign Affairs, Tim Watts, announced today at the Bengaluru Tech Summit. The National Commission for Women has launched the 4th phase of the Digital Shakti campaign. This is a pan-India project to empower and skill women in the cyberspace and ensure safe cyberspaces for women. Delhi police has sought narco test of Aftab Poonawalla, accused of killing his live-in partner and dumping her body parts in a forest area in South Delhi. Police to send recovered body parts for DNA analysis. The International Financial Services Centres Authority and the Reserve Bank of India have signed an MOU for collaboration in the field of regulation and supervision of regulated entities. A passenger ferry carrying 271 people caught fire off Indonesia's resort island of Bali today. Evacuation efforts are undergoing. No immediate reports of casualties. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said there is no indication of a deliberate attack by Russia or NATO member Poland. Blast most likely caused by Ukrainian air defense, but probe is undergoing. NASA's historic moon mission Artemis 1 blasted off on its debut flight with 3 test dummies aboard early this morning. The launch brings NASA closer to sending astronauts to the lunar surface. Now news in detail. India was handed over the presidency of the G20 at the closing session of the G20 summit in Bali today. At the closing session, Indonesian President Joko Widodo symbolically handed over the G20 presidency to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. India will officially assume the G20 presidency from 1st of the next month. Speaking at the closing session, Prime Minister Modi said, G20 presidency is a matter of pride for every Indian.
एक्सेलेंसीज, भारत G20 का जिम्मा ऐसे समय ले रहा है जब विश्व जियोपॉलिटिकल तनावों, आर्थिक मंदी, खाद्यान्न और ऊर्जा की बढ़ी हुई कीमतों और महामारी के दीर्घकालीन दुष्प्रभावों से एक साथ जूझ रहा है। ऐसे समय विश्व G20 की तरफ आशा की नजर से देखता है।
Prime Minister Modi noted that India is taking the charge at a time when the world is grappling with geopolitical tensions, economic slowdown, and rising food and energy prices. He assured the world leaders that India's G20 presidency will be inclusive, ambitious, decisive, and action-oriented.
एक्सेलेंसी, आज आवश्यकता है कि विकास के लाभ सर्वस्पर्शी और सर्वसमावेशी हो। हमें विकास के लाभों को ममभाव और समभाव से मानव मात्र तक पहुंचाना होगा।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed a session on digital transformation at the G20 summit in Bali. He urged the G20 leaders to pledge that they will work together for digital inclusion over the next decade to ensure that no person is deprived of the benefits of digital technology. Prime Minister Modi said that data development will be an integral part of the overall theme of India's G20 presidency. He stated that India is making digital access public, but at the international level, there is still a huge digital divide as only 50 countries have digital payment systems. Prime Minister Modi described digital transformation as the most remarkable change of an era. He emphasized that proper use of digital technologies can be a force multiplier in the global fight against poverty. He stressed that digital solutions can also be helpful in the fight against climate change. We'll take a short break here and be right back on the other side with more news updates.
Those in favor, please say aye.
जो सदस्य विरोध में ना गए,
I think the ayes have it.
हवालों के पक्ष में हुआ।
Ayes have it. The bill is passed.
Nature and You, the Environment Series. Aim is to awake and aware people to protect our environment, be it climate or wildlife crisis, depletion of ocean resources, waste management issues. Only on Sansad TV.
Hi, welcome back to the news. At the G20 summit on Wednesday, members agreed that it was essential to uphold international law and multilateral system that safeguards peace and stability. But the differences among them were evident over the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Here are more details.
At the end of the two-day G20 summit in Bali, members issued a joint declaration. It acknowledged the differences over the Russia-Ukraine conflict, saying that most members strongly condemned it. Indonesian President Joko Widodo hosted the summit, attended by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, US President Joe Biden, Chinese President Xi Jinping, and British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, among others. He said there was contentious discussion on the Russia-Ukraine conflict during their deliberations. Russian President Putin skipped the summit and sent his Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov to represent the country. Most member states said the Ukraine conflict was causing immense human suffering, aggravating existing fragilities in the global economy. The declaration said G20 members reaffirmed their national positions expressed in forums like the United Nations Security Council that deplored the Russian aggression. Most members also agreed that the Ukraine war constrains growth, increasing inflation, heightening energy and food insecurity. It said it is essential to uphold international law and the multilateral system that safeguards peace and stability. The declaration called for adherence to the international humanitarian law, including protection of civilians in armed conflicts. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi held bilateral meetings with several world leaders on the sidelines of the G20 summit. He met with his Australian counterpart, Anthony Albanese, and discussed ways to further cement the comprehensive strategic partnership. He also held fruitful talks with French President Emmanuel Macron with a focus on enhancing bilateral defense and economic engagement. The two leaders discussed how to enhance defense ties, further sustainable growth and increase economic cooperation. In his talks with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, Prime Minister Narendra Modi discussed ways to deepen bilateral cooperation in various sectors, including trade, energy, defense, and counter-terrorism. Prime Minister Modi held talks with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz on the sidelines of the G20 summit. They examined ways to expand bilateral economic engagement and defense collaboration. He also held talks with his British counterpart Rishi Sunak, covering key areas of cooperation such as trade, mobility, defense, and security. It was the first meeting between the two leaders after the Indian origin leader assumed office as the British Prime Minister a few weeks ago. Prime Minister Modi asserted that Singapore is an important pillar of India's Act East policy during his meeting with his Singaporean counterpart Lee Hsien Loong. Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited and planted mangroves in Bali's largest mangrove forest, Taman Hutan Raya Nagura Rai, on the sidelines of the G20 summit. Prime Minister Modi was joined by other world leaders, including US President Biden and French President Macron, in mangrove planting, a symbolic commitment to countering climate change. Mangroves play an important role in global conservation efforts. India has joined the Mangrove Alliance for Climate, a joint initiative of Indonesia and the UAE under the Indonesian G20 presidency. Let us now look at the news related to Gujarat elections. Union Home Minister Amit Shah said the BJP entered appeasement politics and established the rule of law in Gujarat during its 27-year rule. Amit Shah addressed an election rally in support of Gujarat Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel, the BJP's candidate from the Ghatlodiya seat in Ahmedabad city. Shah said the BJP government's improved the situation, as a result of which no one dares to create disturbance now. After the rally, Shah and Patel led a roadshow up to the Sola area, where Patel submitted his nomination papers for the next month's election to authorities. Gujarat will vote in two phases on 1st and 5th of December. The counting of votes will be taken up on 8th of December.
તૃષ્ટિકરણના માહોલની જગ્યાએ ન્યાયનો માહોલ બનાવવાનું કામ આ ભારતીય જનતા પાર્ટીની સરકાર
999 nomination papers filed for the first phase of elections that have been found valid for the 89 seats in the Gujarat Assembly elections. The last date for withdrawal of nominations is 17 November, while for the second phase, it is 21st of November. Voting for the first phase will be on 1st of December. 341 nomination papers have been received so far for the second phase for 93 seats on 5th of December. Gujarat Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel filed his nomination papers for the Assembly elections today. He filed the nomination from his Ghatlodia seat in Ahmedabad city. Many senior leaders, including Union Home Minister Amit Shah, were present during the filing process. India is using technology in its war against poverty, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said today. Inaugurating the three-day Bengaluru Tech Summit through a video message, Prime Minister Modi asserted that India is emerging as the innovation hub of the world. He said that nation has over 81,000 recognized startups and over 1,000 R&D centers of global majors. He added that India is no more a place known for red tape, but for red carpet for investors.
Property cards are given to the people. This reduces land disputes. It also helps to poor to access financial services and credit. During COVID-19, many countries were struggling with a problem. They knew people needed help. They knew benefit transfers would help, but they did not have the infrastructure to take benefits to the people.
Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar on Wednesday applauded the working of the Comptroller and Auditor General of India. Inaugurating the second audit day at the office of the Comptroller and Auditor General in Delhi, the Vice President called the CAG a prestigious institution. He said it has made a lot of progress over the years while praising its credibility and influence among the general public.
It is indeed satisfying to note that CAG as an institution over the years has exemplified spinal strength. This elevated status is consequence of seminal leadership the institution has been benefiting from. The credibility earned by the institution is due to the painstaking efforts of successive CAGs that brought this institution what it is today. Impactful and wholesome CAG functioning has generated evolution of transparent and accountable ecosystem. That is what we are witnessing at the moment.
Agri-startup fairs will be organized in Rajasthan's Kota in January with the aim to increase the income of the farmers. Started at the initiative of Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla, the startup fair will introduce farmers to new techniques of agriculture. Apart from the Lok Sabha Speaker, Union Agriculture Minister Narendra Tomar was also present at the meeting to finalize preparations for the agriculture startup fair. Farmers from all over the country will share their experiences at the fair.
आज लोकसभा अध्यक्ष जी से भेंट हुई और कृषि के क्षेत्र पर काफ़ी चर्चा हुई। कृषि के क्षेत्र को उन्नत क्षेत्र में तब्दील करने के लिए निश्चित रूप से टेक्नोलॉजी के प्रवेश की अत्यंत आवश्यकता है। जनवरी माह में कोटा में एक एग्रीकल्चर एग्जीबिशन प्लान कर रहे हैं, जिससे कि वहाँ एक बड़ी एग्जीबिशन लगे, उसमें एग्री स्टार्टअप्स भी हों, बाकी सीड कंपनियां हों, बायो फर्टिलाइज़र हों, बाकी सब चीज़ें की उपलब्धता हो, जिससे कि किसान उसको नज़दीक से देख सके और उसको अपना सके।
Now let's take a look at all the latest from the Russia-Ukraine crisis. Two people were killed in a rocket attack at a village in eastern Poland on Tuesday afternoon, about 6 kilometers from the border with Ukraine. A statement from the Poland Foreign Ministry identified the weapon as being made in Russia. The Polish government said it was investigating and raising its level of military preparedness. Polish President Andrzej Duda said the origins of the weapons are still being verified and they were acting with calm. Denying any involvement, Russian Foreign Ministry alleged that the attack was carried out by Ukrainian air defense. US President Joe Biden convened an emergency meeting of the Group of 7 and NATO leaders in Indonesia after a missile attack on Poland. After the meeting, Biden said it was unlikely in the lines of the trajectory that the missile was fired from Russia. He also pledged support for Poland's investigation. Serious questions about the explosion remain, including who fired the missile. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen reaffirmed the bloc's support for Ukraine during her visit to Bali to attend the G20 summit. Part of an emergency meeting convened at the summit after Poland was hit by a rocket near its eastern border with Ukraine, von der Leyen said the European Union will stand with Ukraine as long as it takes, and we stand united. She also offered full support to Poland and assistance with the ongoing investigation into the strike. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky decried Russia's continued membership in the G20 on Wednesday, following Russia's missile attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Addressing the G20 summit in Bali, Indonesia, via video link from Kyiv, Zelensky labeled Russia a terrorist. Zelensky said that hundreds of cities were left without electricity, water and heat, and that internet traffic has fallen by 2/3. He also called for a quick response after Poland said that a Russian-made missile fell in the country's east, killing 2 people. Russia targeted Ukraine's energy facilities on Tuesday with its biggest barrage of missiles yet, causing widespread blackouts. The western Ukrainian city of Lviv was plunged into darkness following the attacks. People on the streets walked holding flashlights. Some even sat in a cafe which was working thanks to a generator. The mayor of Lviv said that in 9 months, the city did not face such an extreme situation. President Zelensky said about 10 million Ukrainians are left without electricity, adding that Lviv and some other cities suspended the supply of heat. And now news from other parts of the globe. Donald Trump, who has mounted relentless attacks on the integrity of US voting since its 2020 election defeat, on Tuesday launched a bid to regain the presidency in 2024, aiming to preempt potential Republican rivals. Here's a report.
In a speech lasting little more than an hour on Tuesday, former US President Donald Trump spoke to hundreds of supporters in ballroom decorated with chandeliers and lined with American flags. He said he will mount a third White House campaign, launching an early start to the 2024 contest, announcing that America's comeback starts right now. The announcement comes just a week after an underwhelming midterm showing for Republicans and will force the party to decide whether to embrace a candidate whose refusal to accept defeat in 2020 pushed American democracy to the brink. Trump enters the race at a moment of personal political vulnerability. He hoped to launch his campaign in the wake of resounding GOP midterm victories, fueled by candidates he elevated during this year's primaries. Instead, many of those candidates lost, allowing Democrats to keep the Senate and leaving the GOP with a path to only a bare majority in the House. Far from the undisputed leader of the party, Trump is now facing criticism from some of his own allies, who say it's time for Republicans to look to the future, with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis emerging as an early favorite White House contender. Trump also faces a series of escalating criminal investigations, including several that could lead to indictments. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
NASA's Next Generation Moon rocket blasted off from Florida early on Wednesday on its debut flight. The crewless voyage inaugurates the U.S. Space Agency's Artemis exploration program 50 years after the final Apollo moon mission. The 32-story Space Launch System rocket surged off the launch pad from the Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral at 1:47 a.m. to send its Orion capsule on a 3-week test journey. About 90 minutes after the launch, the rocket's upper stage fired thrusters for a translunar injection burn, propelling Orion out of Earth orbit on course for the moon. A 3-man red team was scrambled out to the launch pad in the final hours of the countdown to tighten bolts on a loose connection identified as the source of a potentially flight-throttling fuel leak. Now time for the latest from the world of sports. Rafael Nadal eliminated from the ATP finals after losing 6-3, 6-4 to Felix Aliassime. Carlos Alcaraz will finish 2022 as #1 player on the ATP Tour. The 19-year-old is not playing due to injury but has been confirmed as the year-end #1 after Casper Ruud won a set against Taylor Fritz. In badminton, Malaysian star shuttler Lee Zizia beat Australia's Rio Agostino 21-9, 21-11 in the Australian Open. Mumbai Indian superstar Kiran Porad announced his retirement from the Indian Premier League. The 35-year-old will continue to be part of the franchisee as a batting coach. The Badminton World Federation has relocated the season-ending World Tour Finals 2022 from China to Thailand due to the complications arising out of the COVID-19 pandemic. The event has also been preponed and will run from December 7 to 11. Indian pistol shooters continued their golden run at the 15 Asian Airgun Championships in Daegu, Korea, winning all the 4 gold medals on offer on the second day of the competition. With 2 more days left in the competition, India has already increased its medal tally to 21 gold medals. Rhythm Sangwan defeated Palak 16-8 to win his second international gold medal of the year. In another final, Manu Bhakar won the gold medal in the 10-meter air pistol women's junior event, defeating Isha Singh 17-15 in a closely contested match. In the men's 10-meter air pistol team event, Shiv Narwal, Naveen and Vijay Veer Sidhu defeated Korea's team 16-4. In the junior men's category, the Indian team of Sagar Danki, Samrat Rana and Varun Tomar won. That's the end of the bulletin. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to Sansad Television for more updates. Good night.